For all this and more, make 9.com.au your homepage.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Pine v Alba!
Welcome back to the show. Usually we are the ones putting the hard questions to our pollies, but today it's your turn at home. You have been sending in your questions to Christopher Pyne and Anthony Albanese. Morning, lads.
Hi.
Good morning, Carl.
Nice to see you all bright and early. Hey, first up, pensions. Belinda Bendon writes, why do ordinary Australians have to wait until they are 65 to receive a pension, yet politicians get an exorbitant pension as soon as they leave government? And Irene Orris asks, why do all politicians believe they deserve to be paid when they leave politics? Christopher, you're first up.
Well, of course, the laws have been changed to do with politicians and their superannuation, such that politicians now need to wait until they're 55, like every other Australian, to be able to access their super. There's still a small coterie of parliamentarians from 20-odd years ago who can access their superannuation as soon as they leave Parliament, and that was really designed to compensate them for not having very high salaries in those days. That's also been addressed in the last 5 to 10 years, and so therefore the laws around super are now the same for MPs as they are for other Australians.
It's still a lot, though, isn't it?
Well, it's the same super that every other public servant gets, in fact.
Anthony?
Yeah, the average time that a parliamentarian spends in their job is under 6 years. Most MPs never, ever got any super. And in terms of the system, it was aligned to senior public servants in terms of defined benefit schemes. That's been changed now.
You two are lining up together on this. It's nice to see.
Well, it's just the truth.
Let's move on. Daniel Esgate.
Just chucking a few facts out there, Carl.
Goodness gracious.
So
We're
dull
not
when
in
you
the
agree.
post-fact world that the rest of the media's in, Carl.
Huh? Hey,
We're not
let's move
doing
on. Daniel
post-truth.
Esgate writes, when will government stop foreigners buying up homes, pushing the Australian dream of owning a home way out of reach of the Aussie battler? And Douglas Green wants to know, why are Australians being priced out of the property market? Chris, why is this happening?
Well, of course, we have introduced significant reforms to foreign ownership of real estate in the last 3 years. We have reduced the threshold that the Foreign Investment Review Board has to look at investments from overseas. We have started making people divest themselves of existing property that they shouldn't have been able to purchase in previous years. We've got a land register that is now up and running so that we know who is buying what. And I would make the point, though, Carl, that we are a vast country of about 770 million hectares. It's not as though foreign ownership of real estate is pushing up house prices, but there is a perception amongst some Australians that that is the case, so we took action to do something about that.
What do you reckon about the NAB putting up interest rates today?
I haven't seen that yet, sorry, Carl.
Yeah, they've gone up, Alba.
I think there's no excuse for them to be putting up interest rates when the Reserve Bank haven't. They're using the US increase as an excuse. And I think it's just another example of the banks being out of touch.
Agree.
And there's three other major banks. There's lots of other lenders in terms of the housing market. If consumers of the NAB don't like what the NAB is doing, it's not nearly as hard to move banks as people think it is. I've done it a couple of times, and it's not that difficult.
OK, another good one by Pete Rebu is, why are politicians allowed to continually tinker with superannuation? How can you plan for retirement when they change the rules? Albo, he's got a point, hasn't he?
Well, he does. We do need certainty with regard to superannuation. It's important not just for individuals, but for the whole economy. We rely upon those super funds that have grown into a big nest egg that are available for investment in Australian infrastructure. We should get that certainty there.
OK. Christopher?
Well, I agree with Anthony about that. The truth is that the reforms to super that the government did last year need to be the last reforms for some time, because there needs to be certainty in people's approach to their retirement. And I think the less people change the super reforms, the better, unless, of course, they're for the benefit of the consumer.
OK, a couple more to race through. Melissa Burns-George wants to know, why don't you pay off your debts? You keep building things and taking money away from people, and yet you still have the national debt. Christopher? Why can't you balance the books?
Well, during the global financial crisis, Labor did manage to massively
Question
increase
was about you,
government debt.
Christopher.
It's the truth, though. The debt
It's about
massively
your
increased.
8 times increase.
The debt massively increased because of Labor during the global financial crisis.
How long have you been in government now? Just a reminder.
Look, I'd love to be able to answer the question.
What, you don't?
Do you want me to or not?
You don't know how long you've been in government?
Well, there was no national debt, Carl, when the Howard government lost. None. 6 years later, we are in deficit and debt because of Labor. And we are trying to pay that back appropriately. Of course, Labor keeps blocking every savings in the Senate as much as they possibly can. But we are paying back the debt and the deficit over time, but we're not going to shock the economy. And if people didn't want to have all that debt and deficit, they shouldn't have got rid of the Howard government when there was none.
Well, we got through the global financial crisis because of Labor's economic stimulus program. We were one of the few economies in the whole world that didn't go into depression.
OK, well, this is a really good one too. Joanne Houston is asking, how can Australia, one of the most resource-rich countries in the world, be faced with an energy crisis? Chris, how is South Australia going?
Well, unfortunately, because of bad decisions to get rid of baseload power, to close down things like the Playford Power Station, the Northern Power Station, to mothball Pelican Point gas-fired power station. Now, renewable energy is a good thing. Who couldn't be for it? But the truth is, a 50% renewable energy target meant that South Australia was overly reliant on unreliable energy like wind power when it doesn't blow, and we are trying to, through things like the big announcement yesterday of the Snowy Hydro scheme, 2,000 more megawatts into the system. The federal government's trying to fix that problem.
OK,
Well,
the front page of the Advertiser this morning, people are blaming Jay Witherell for the crisis, the energy crisis in South Australia. Are they right?
No, they're absolutely wrong. The fact is that New South Wales relies upon coal for our power more than any other state. We've had blackouts, we've had shutdowns.
Okay.
In South Australia, the national energy market isn't working. Pelican Point was available and not used because the national regulator chose not to turn it on. That's
Okay.
why the blackout happened.
On the subject
Rubbish.
of power, Renee Erfield is asking the hard-hitting question of the week. On the blackout at the Adele concert in Adelaide, did Christopher Pyne unplug Adele? Are you responsible?
I was at the Adele concert. It was absolutely
Another crime.
fantastic. And I'll tell you what happened. It's so amazing. There was a revolving stage underneath where Adele was standing,
Yeah.
and it literally revolved slowly and pulled the plug out on the power on the stage.
That was you.
It wasn't me.
Come
I
on,
was-
Christopher, you missed an opportunity to blame the federal
Yes.
Labor Party.
Well,
you
it probably
missed
was
an
your fault.
opportunity.
Well, did you come over?
You missed an
I want to hear
opportunity.
You were
Christopher Pyne
crawling
singing an
underneath the
Adele song.
stage.
What's your favourite Adele song? And just give us a little bar.
I thought at the concert, actually, the best song she sang was Hello. It was the opening line, opening song, and it was electric. But it was a great concert. 70,000.
Sing it.
70,000
Sing it.
people. No,
Hello.
Carl. I haven't had anything to drink.
OK. All right,
Think
goodbye.
of the viewers.
Yeah.
But I sound good when
Hello,
I've been singing as long as I've had a
goodbye,
couple
guys.
of beers.
Have a great week. Lovely to see you both.
Ciao.
Lisa.
See you.
Thank you very much, Carl. We'll still